Hi, we're back again to toilet training. I'm just going to move on from where we left off. So we gave, I suppose, the examples of toileting equipment. So we were talking about the potty. As I said, the potty can move from room to room. So it's just to be considered with that. So often some parents start with just using the toilet instead of going from the potty because the toilet doesn't move and it stays in one place in the house, and it makes it a small bit easier for families, in terms of that once your child has done a wee or a poo, or if you've had a situation where they've missed the toilet, it's not a case where you're running around the house trying to locate the potty. So as we can see there, the reason for these pieces of equipment is it reduces the hole. These are reducers. So it reduces the hole in the toilet, and by reducing the hole in the toilet, it will help in terms of making your child a bit more comfortable while sitting on the toilet. So these are things that you need to consider. But as it says here, different types of training seats, ensure it will fit adequately in your toilet before you purchase it. Because I know parents can go through various different seats that will fit on their toilet. So it's important when you're going to get an idea, take a photo of your toilet before you go to purchase your reducer. Second now, I need to. This is not my presentation is not moving for me at the moment. Oh, here we are. So, one of the things with sitting on the toilet is your child needs to be in the correct position for sitting. So we need to have the knees above the hips. So you can see here in step one of the image, um, the knees need to be higher than the hips. So you can see there is that's why you need to have a footstool. Um, we need to be able to lean forward. And this is really with opening our bowels. So we need to be able to lean forward. So we're exerting a degree of pressure through our shoulders and through our elbows. And you can see here, I suppose, externally when we're opening our bowels, where there's a degree of push and pull that's happening internally. And then obviously you achieve this position where there's the exerting the pressures from your shoulders forward, from your elbows, and pressure from your feet, as well as the internal pressure of your bowels. Um, that enables for us to open our bowels, um, effectively. So then we'll move on to our next piece is the toilet record chart. So we would be able to send you out a toilet record chart either via email or by post. So the purpose of this chart is to record your child's current pathways, and check your child's nappy every hour during the day for the day for a period of 5 days, and record the observation. So um, I don't have a toilet. Oh, I do. I have a toilet record chart here. So it's basically just a standard chart. I don't know if you can see that, that you would complete, and it just I suppose that the labels are is time, so the time of the day, the meals that when it was a drink, food, or sleep, um, and then when you check the nappy, was it a bladder or bowel movement, and the comments. So showing awareness, indicating that they need, their nappy changed, and this will give you an idea then. So you'll be able to track it. And in fairness, you will be able to see that, your child's nappy is wet between 1 and 2 on every day. So then we need to be able to say, okay, if they're wet between 1 and 2, we need to figure out what time do they usually do that wee. And prior to that, I gave them they had their food maybe at 12:30. So it's actually a quarter past um, one that they're always seem to be doing a wee. So that would be a good time for us to be able to move toward the toilet. So that's the way you're being able to gather that bits of information to make things a bit easier. Um, because look, there's an awful lot of steps to go through, and it just helps for you to be a bit more aware, especially if it is the fact that you're starting on toilet training, and you're not exactly sure when after a drink or after food, how often they open their bowels, or how often they regularly, have a wee. So preparing your child. So I suppose it's about having a chat with your child about toileting and what's going to happen next. And it's talking, through language and prompts, using gestures and visuals, talking about social stories or creating a social story, using visual sequence, physically demonstrating through the modeling, which I spoke to you about, using YouTube videos, modeling with doll or the teddy. Teddy needs to go to the toilet, and that can really, really help. So, um, I suppose one of the things is that when we're looking at starting to do a wee in the home toilet, the one thing I would be saying is you need to complete all the previous steps. looking at increasing our fluid intake. The one thing about it is often 20 minutes after breakfast or a big drink, what I will be doing is sitting them on the toilet for kind of 2 to 5 minutes. Um, have potentially a toy there that only lives in the toilet as a motivator. And if it's unsuccessful, try again in another 10 and 15 minutes. It may be handy to do this. The one thing is as well is the morning can often be, one of the most trying to get the successful opportunities because it's establishing a routine, so it can help. The other thing about it is that some parents often find that waking their child up 10 to 15 minutes up than what they usually would, and bringing them to the toilet straight away, sitting them on the toilet. Now this can work quite well for some children, but other children can be quite drowsy in the morning. It takes them a while to wake up. But often we can find is that there's often some residual urine there that they haven't had a wee, and once they're moving around a bit more, that there's more of an opportunity to catch that wee in the toilet. I suppose the one thing about it is it's about also when we are starting this process about being calm, um, you know, and being, I suppose, it's going to be, it's going to be a challenging journey because sometimes you may find that they've gained the skill, and if they're on the same path as you, because some children don't prioritize toilet training, so maybe the thing that you're thinking, right, we need to get toilet training, and we're in the zone, and we need to focus on it, but your child may be focusing on another skill that they really want to master, such like a fine motor or a gross motor skill, like kicking the ball more efficiently, and whereas they're not on the same page, so it takes a while to get them motivated, engaging, and that's why all the previous steps are so important because you're helping them to tune in that toileting is the priority at this moment in time. I suppose the one thing is managing wet and soiling accidents. So the one thing I would do is try and stop not to use the word accident because um a child takes ownership for an accident and they feel that it's their fault. So the best way to do it is really Mr. Pooh or Mr. Wee. And we tell them, will you tell Mr. Pooh or Mr. Wee that he needs to go to the toilet? Or will you help me clean up Mr. Pooh? Um, and he needs to go to the toilet. We need to tell him. Will you tell him that he needs to go into the toilet? And as part of the cleanup process, empty the contents into the toilet. Um, and I think it's important as well, like with your partner or other siblings in the house, to not use that word accident because there's an awful lot associated with it, and children struggle with it. So by you calling it Mr. Pooh or Mr. Wee, it's not your child's fault. It's Mr. Pooh's fault or it's Mr. Wee's fault. So it gives a different sense of I suppose what's going on for them. Um, I suppose we need to look at the use of visual tools, so things like toileting books. Um, um, and I suppose if you can get the opportunity of them sitting on the toilet, you know, capturing that image of them sitting on the toilet, creating objects of reference. So things like the toilet paper. So no more than if you pick up a nappy, your child probably registers that that means that their nappy needs to be changed. So having a specific object as well that is consistent will really help. Mm. So some of these are visual tools. To give you an example, things like pants down, underwear down, sit on the toilet, pee in the toilet, poop in the toilet. So these can be helpful for some older children who really need to know those step-by-step process and haven't got fully independent with their skill. There's still a bit of having a bit of challenges with it. So this can really work very effectively. Other thing too is some of your children may use the law of signs. So this is the sign, the law of sign for toileting, for toilet. And that could be consistent with you using that approach of saying we're going to the toilet, using your language and your law of sign, creating a total communication approach when you're engaging with your child. This is another example of, I suppose, a social story. Everybody goes to the toilet every day. Adults and children go to the toilet. We have, I suppose, a narrative here of sometimes I have to pee. I have to go to the bathroom when I have to pee. Sometimes I have to poop. I go to the bathroom when I have to poop. So this gives you an idea. So it's matching some images of your child or a cartoon character. This will help, I suppose, first of all, to get your child an understanding of what you're trying to do. in terms of toileting, and also motivating them towards this whole new piece of learning around toileting. This is an example of a toilet chart. So if your child goes to the toilet, wipe, flush the toilet, and wash their hands, they get a reward. So they get a sticker in the box. And if they get all the stickers at the end of the 7 days, or it could be 3 days, they get a reward. Um, so I suppose rewards are really important, but the one thing about it is when your child does sit in the toilet, you need to be given positive praise, smiles, kisses, hugs, clapping. Rewards can be the star charts, bubbles, music, a favorite toy or favorite food. So the one thing I would be saying is that you need to be very careful in terms of rewards. Sometimes it may be a food item, but in reality, that food item needs to live in the bathroom area. And there's a number of reasons for that. So first of all, um, if it is that it's a sweet or something, your child needs to be able to associate that they are given a reward for what they did in the toilet. If it take, you need to give that reward within 10 seconds of them doing the activity. If it's longer than that, 10 to 20 seconds, you're in a situation where your child has forgotten why they're being rewarded. So if you have to go to the kitchen to find a piece of chocolate to give to your child, they're gone. They haven't remembered about the toilet. So have your bubbles, have your favorite toy. It may be, if it is that you want to give a food reward, that you have it there and you replenish as you go. But it means that they automatically realize and associate that reward with toileting. So, before we talk about routine established, I suppose I just want to go back to talk about the steps in terms of, just to refresh. So, we're starting off with, I suppose, the steps to learning for independent toileting, which I had discussed earlier about knowing all of those steps. We're talking about modeling. So, you using the toilet yourself and bringing your child or if your partner or siblings for them to go in and to watch them while they go to the toilet, and we're sitting down on the toilet. The other thing then is when your child has a bath, we're wrapping them up in a towel after the bath and sitting them on the toilet with the lid down. So that's one of those big pieces. And I suppose, they're sitting on the toilet with the lid down, they're supported in terms of their feet, and there's a step there for them to be able to step onto, so that and you're drying them, and it may be 10, 20 seconds until you can build it up to a bit more. So you want to do that for a couple of weeks and get that routine established. And then what you want to do is, after your child is feeling comfortable and happy, and maybe the fact that you give them a book and you're chatting with them, a toileting book, and you're chatting with them whilst you're drying them, and they're getting lovely eye contact, lovely engagement. And then the fact is, the next time you might think, "Do you know what, I'm going to lift the lid." Okay, so I'm going to lift the lid, have the reducer in, I'll put my child and the towel on, and we'll do the same thing, but the lid will be up. Okay, so that's where the next step in terms of lifting that the lid and allowing them to sit on the toilet. They're sitting on the toilet. It may be the fact that you're not confident that their bum is going to be sitting in the seat, so you may still wrap it up in the towel, and that's fine. So gradually, you're making them feel really comfortable with sitting onto the toilet, and that's really one of the key ways to go to getting them that degree of independence of sitting on the toilet. And yes, they're not doing a wee or a poo, but they're getting into the routine of sitting. And it's can be quite, look, it's not the fact that often children know what is expected of them when they sit on the toilet. So it's giving them the fact of it's associating with bath, it's associating with a really positive time. And then obviously if it is following on from that, once they're comfortable with sitting on the toilet without a towel, and if it's still bath time, you're doing that then, that routine piece, once or twice a day to try and get them to sit. And it's the association by using your social stories, by using your visuals, by having the fact of that modeling piece, so that they are aware of all of those steps. Um, so now we're going to move on, I suppose. Is say you've worked with your child for period of time, you've established your routine, you've done the wheeze and the poos in the toilet on occasions, but you're not getting full consistency. So what you'd move on to then is what we would call a toilet party. And literally a toilet party is as it's described. So it's a case of I suppose camping out in your toilet or in your bathroom for a few days, with lots of water-based foods. It's um, and lots of water-based foods, things like ice cream and various different drinks. And what you do is you set an alarm on your phone for every 10 to 15 minutes. So after your child has had drink, you set an alarm for 15 minutes. And when the alarm comes off, you go, toilet time, toilet party time. And then your child sits in the toilet. When your child sits on the toilet, they get a reward. Okay. And they'll get it once then they have, so once you've that established, then it's the fact of if they've done a wee or a poo in the toilet, they get another reward. So we're trying to establish this whole idea around them, um, you know, really, I suppose, honing in on toileting, because it may be the fact that they're getting the skills, but they haven't put it all together. So you need to do it quite intensely. Now, some parents have done this and said that it worked really well, but it's the whole thing of your all the toys, everything are going to be living in the bathroom space, and you have the alarm on, and your child will then, if you're putting the alarm on for every 15 minutes or every 10 minutes, your child then would be able to realize, oh, when the alarm goes off, I need to sit on the toilet, and that's when I get a reward. Um, and look, it's not for everybody. It's challenging because it is really often a 2 day event where you really need to focus in on that. And it can help because if you think of it, then if they're getting used to that alarm and the fact that the alarm is going off on your phone, or if it is that you've just a manual alarm, and then they realize, oh, when that alarm goes off, I need to go to the toilet, and it's helping them to have that realize that sensation in their kind of tummy area of knowing, or that pressure around their bowels or their bladder. And I suppose the one other thing I would mention is when you or I go to the toilet, we can often feel that sensation that we need to go to the toilet, where some children don't feel that sensation. So when they don't feel that sensation, they don't realize, I suppose, or interpret that ability to know when they need to go or when they don't need to go. So sometimes that's very difficult to ascertain, but the one thing about it is that it's important for us to verbalize, oh, I have a pain in my tummy, or I need to go to the toilet. I can feel it, so that then they understand, oh, that's similar for me. Um, so it's that kind of awareness of knowing when to go. Um, so I suppose toilet training really means about being patient, taking your time and looking for signs of readiness, considering the environment, the toileting equipment, and the clothing. Um, Gradually encouraging independence. It's about being persistent, so plan regular toilet times and communicate with others, establish a routine. It's about being positive, of acknowledging success and using praise and rewards, monitoring progress, and really one of the key things is being kind to yourself, because toilet training can be very, very challenging. And it's just, I suppose, focusing on one area of the toilet training. And once you've got to a point where you're happy in terms of that independence, it may be the fact that you think, okay, we'll take a break from here and then we'll revisit it in time and go back and look at the next step. Um, so I've given a list of resources in terms of Coco Melon, Peppa Pig, The Wiggles, Baby Shark, all about toileting. So they are very, very handy for you to be able to access, because this might be a motivator for your child, for them to get that degree of understanding. Um, and there's also some other links here regarding resources. Obviously, with this presentation, we will send this out if this is something that you want to have a copy of it, in terms of the presentation that I've gone through. And like I said, if there is that you have any burning questions, you can always come back to us on the email that we sent out the links. So that would be the South Tip CDNT email address. Um, and we do welcome your questions. Because it may be the fact that we will create a frequently asked questions or things that we could integrate into the presentation. So I think that's, thank you for listening. And the only thing I can say, I suppose, is a very best of luck with toilet training, and mind yourself through the process. Thank you.